Today I have 4 books to talk to you guys about. I am so excited. These are great books. They are the top of my list, and I have read them more than once. You know it's a good book when you have read it more than one time. I've done a couple of other videos on books I love, so I will link those down below. 2 of these books in particular I have read just this past year, and I am excited to talk to you about them. The first book is going to be Love Your Life, Not Theirs by Rachel Cruz. This was the book that changed my financial life, my financial trajectory. This book just really hit home, and I think when you are kind of just living your life and oblivious and just, going about your business, when something really smacks you in the face and hits you, like, not literally, obviously, but just, wakes you up and makes you think and makes you go, oh, wait, what did that say? That is a life-changing point, and that was this book for me. So if you don't know, Rachel Cruz is Dave Ramsey's daughter. So if you're not a Dave Ramsey fan, just hold with me for a second. I had read the book, Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, and it's a great book, don't get me wrong, if you're trying to get out of debt and you want to see this path, but it was not for me. I mean, it was a good book maybe after, but it didn't resonate with me. It didn't click. And I have always been the type of person that I can read the first 5 pages of a book, and if I don't like it, I don't finish it. If I am sitting and watching a TV show or a movie and the first few minutes do not capture my attention, I do not waste my time. I move on. Yes, there could have been a possibility that if I'd stayed in it, I could have gotten into it, but no, I'm not taking that chance. So the reason that this book really hit me was because it talked about the main reason I had gone into debt in my 20s, and that was comparison. It talks a lot about comparison and how much we compare ourselves to others. And gosh, is that not even more evident now with social media? I'm 37 and didn't have social media until maybe, mid-20s. So I had a life before then. And yeah, I was in debt then. I can't even imagine what you all are going through now. Younger years, kind of just trying to establish yourself in the world and in life and having to navigate and see this stuff all the time and not understanding that it's not all real, that it's not all the reality that these people are experiencing. So one of the stories that I want to tell you about in this book, so I love it because it really it's understandable. It helps you relate. And it was when Rachel Cruz and her husband went on a 3-day weekend trip to Charleston, South Carolina. If you've never been, Charleston, South Carolina is amazing. And they had a great time. They came back. They did it on a budget. It was where they went, because they could afford to do it. And then we transfer to when she gets home. She goes on social media and she sees her friend on this beautiful Italian vacation, and she's showing all these pictures and this beautiful food that she's eating. And Rachel automatically, she come back on a high from that trip. It was amazing. It was so great. Now she's like, man, I really want to go to Italy. I went to Charleston, South Carolina. It compares nothing to Italy. And she talks about in the book how she automatically started looking up flights to Italy to see how much they cost. So she went from loving her trip to feeling as if it was crap, as if it was nothing in comparison. This is just a small thing of stuff that happens to us every single day. And it's hard to overcome, and it's hard to battle it in your head as you see it coming at you. So this book really talks about that, and I think that the meat of that is just the way she talks about it, the way she kind of works it out for you will be life-changing. She also goes over the 7 essential money habits, and I think that they work, and they work well. She also explains focusing on what's important to you and what you love and spending your money on that, how that can lead you to, living your best life. Not worrying about what other people love and what, being what other people are, but finding what is best for you and investing in that. The second book is Deep Work by Cal Newport. I read that book this year, and I have read it 3 times. Well, this year. In 2021, I read it, and I read it 3 times. This book came about because I do Money Article Mondays on this channel, where we take a money or blog and we chat about it. It's, related to money, directly or indirectly, and something had referenced this book, and I just thought it was intriguing, and I just thought, well, I'll read this. And oh my gosh, has it just flipped my world upside down. It is amazing how it's written. It just fits. The book's basic rounding premise is the ability to create your best work, to learn how to focus. And in these days and day and age, as they say, you cannot find a person who, is not easily distracted by everything going on around them, or not multitasking somehow. The book talks about how the current social and work habits, environments that people tout as the way to work are actually not sustainable, such as working in large shared workspaces. And if you think about it, you really can't focus when you hear 10 different conversations going on around you. But for some reason, we have really moved to doing this open concept, and it actually isn't sustainable. And the book gives you data, facts, stories, examples, real life situations to back up the claims or the things that Cal Newport is saying. He backs it up, which I just think add to the story and the flow of the book. So the book itself, the first part of it kind of just, it dips you into it. It talks to you about the story, about the facts behind it, how it works. And then it goes into the 4 rules, and rules more like aspects of how to really create your best work and to focus. And I've written them down because I couldn't remember them off the top of my head, because again, we're in the 12 days of financial year right now. It's a lot going on in my head. So the first one is work deeply. And that means deep work, not work where you are just checking emails, going about your day, you're listening to a podcast while you're entering data. No, deep work where you turn everything off and you actually have to sit and think, because that's the only way you're going to get that clear flow of work coming out of you. The second one is to embrace boredom. Yeah. People, have the podcast or watching the TV or whatever in the background because, they don't want to be bored. They're chopping, the carrots up, and they just don't want to not be distracted. We have to try to retrain our brains, I think, to be able to think, boredom's okay. Because in boredom, in quiet, in silence is when the brilliant, bright ideas come to you. Do you really think some of the best innovators in our time, of the best technology, products, internet, all these big things came from somebody who was, just chatting around on their computer, listening to a podcast with the TV blaring in the background? Probably not. This person was probably walking to work, or, doing a meditation, or just kind of writing in a journal, and it just came to them. Embracing that boredom is where these bright ideas are going to come from. And the last one is to drain the shallows. And what this one was really big for me. Stop the shallow work. And that shallow work is that work that you can do without even really, the work you do unconsciously, driving the car unconsciously, how you got there. The work you can do while you're talking to your coworker, you can still be doing it. And doing less of it. So he talks about how to try to figure out in your work how much shallow work you're doing and how much deep work you're doing, and determining the time. And he says, maybe go to your boss and say, how much shallow work would you like me to do? Because if you want me to do more deep work, then I need to be able to concentrate and spend 2 hours a day uninterrupted and turn off my email. So don't expect a quick reply from me. Oh, that's the other thing the book talks about. It talks about time blocking and email. Oh my goodness. Just read it. It's amazing. But draining the shallow. So one of the things it said in there is, but if you can look at your job and not see that you actually have any deep work, maybe you need to reconsider your job. And if you haven't seen my video on I Quit, I'll link that down below. I had several signs, and I am big on seeing signs throughout my life to help guide me. And that's just how I trust myself and my intuition. And a sign for me was reading that and going, yeah, pretty much my job is a lot of shallow work, because not shallow in the vain kind or that sense, but shallow in it's not challenging. It's not deep work. I don't get, excited about doing it, and it just kind of is mundane routine, the same thing. And I hadn't thought about leaving my job or asking for deeper work. And when I thought about that, and then the next thing happened where I got a call about a potential position, and then something else happened, and I thought, oh, okay, some puzzle pieces are going together. So this book was just one of my top reads for 2021. Okay, the next one is great if you are maybe interested in minimalism or simplifying your life, or even just getting control of your spending habits on things. And it is The More of Less by Joshua Becker. This guy is all about minimalism, and I love throughout the book, he gives great stories. But essentially, he talks about stuff, how it's consumed us, the consumer culture, and it really gives some great detail throughout the book. And then he talks about decluttering and how to keep the things that you love, and how decluttering is not really getting rid of things, it's making room for more of the things that you love. And I can tell you right now, I understand some people are, adverse to the word of minimalism or minimalist aesthetic. It's just how you interpret it. If you interpret it as a chair and a mattress on the floor, then that's how you interpret it. But I think minimalism, the principles behind it, you can take those, even if you don't want to be a minimalist, and you can apply those to your spending habits in particular and really spend money, because you're only going to be purchasing things that you love. And you really learn how to determine that within this book. So the book is going to teach you how to create a personal approach to decluttering your home, because again, minimalism, simple living, saving money, everything is personal to people, meaning not everything's going to work for you that works for your neighbor. And that's okay. You need to take what you can and adapt it and move from there. And what it's going to help you do is realize, as an entirety of your whole in your life, what actually matters. This next one is a little bit different, but just stick with me here. I think a lot of money issues with, being in debt or having bad spending habits can have a lot to do with mindset. And this book really can dig into a lot here. So this is called The Master of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. And you may have heard about the 4 Agreements, the book by Don Miguel Ruiz Sr. That's his dad. That is also an excellent read. Now, I want to preface this by, either of these books, you have to be ready to read. If you're not ready to read them, you're not going to accept the information. There are some people that are just very, no, this is what I believe, and I'm not open to any other perspectives. Now, this is not a book that's, gonna be crazy. It's not that kind of thing. It's just thinking outside the box, looking at things from maybe a place where you didn't want to, or didn't think you wanted to discover, but it will really open you up, and especially during these times. So this book is great if you're feeling, down in the dumps, if you're feeling like you just don't understand what's going on, you feel powerless. I think that's a big one. You feel very powerless. You don't know how to take control of your life because of all the just stuff going on around you. And I think uncovering how we got there is a key to doing so. Now, the 4 Agreements by his dad talks about 4 principles. Let's see if I can remember them. The first one is be impeccable. Essentially, it's meaning when you speak, don't speak negatively about yourself or other people. It's a great way to live. The other is to not take things personally, meaning if we stopped taking things personally, that thinking that other people's actions or thoughts or opinions are ours to take on or are some reflection of us, if we stopped that, gosh, what a difference the world would be. Because what others do, say, or think isn't about you. It's usually about them. The third thing is to do your best. Every day, do your best. Even if you are feeling off and the best you could do was get up out of the bed and sit on the couch and watch TV. You know what? Physically, that's the best you could do that day. But if you do your best every day, the days that you do feel wonderful, you're going to accomplish more. And the fourth one is not to assume. Stop assuming. Stop assuming you think that you know what somebody's intention was. The best thing you could do is ask questions. It happens here on my channel. People think some of the things I say and they just assume that I had one meaning versus another. And they really don't know the intent or the actual thoughts behind it that were in my mind. If I gave thoughts about everything I gave thoughts about, then we would never get off of one of these videos. Stop assuming. If you have a question or if you do not know, then ask. It is okay to ask. So getting back to the mastery of self, obviously you can read, I gave you a little brief description of the 4 agreements. Go ahead and read that too if you're interested based on what I said. So what the mastery of self helps you do is increase your awareness of your emotions, of your perceptions, of the world and people around you. It's going to help you kind of realize why you do things and why other people may do things. So I'll talk about a couple of the stories he talks about in here. He talks about how at the very beginning people have certain agreements, but domestications and attachments. So domestications, here's one example that he talks about in the book. He talks about how the grandmother and her grandson, he's eating his lunch and he doesn't finish his lunch, and she says, no, you need to eat all of your lunch because that's being a good boy, etc. Well, he knows that he's physically full, but she says, she gives him the guilt trip, there are people who are hungry, so he eats all of his food. So she's domesticating him, even though she's doing so out of she thinks a place of good. She's domesticating him, so later on in life he feels that he has to finish his plate. If he doesn't finish his plate, and rather than even when he's full, he feels bad about it, and he thinks negatively about others who don't finish his plate. So you see how something that happened in his childhood relates to his adulthood. And attachments, he gives this story about how a person who loves soccer, loves the game of soccer, they enjoy it, they love it. Whenever they watch it, it just lights them up inside. But then they create an attachment to a particular team. And they feel, you've seen sports fanatics, they're invested. And if that team wins, then they are on cloud 9. They're celebrating, high-fiving everywhere. But if that team loses, they are down in the dumps, they are grumpy and downright terrible to be around. I'm sure you've experienced some of this with sports fanatics. Because that person created an attachment and almost like a belonging to something he can't control, something he's not even actually a part of. And you've created something yourself, you've created an attachment yourself that isn't healthy for you. It's not healthy for you to feel and treat other people in your life badly just because your team lost. That's not how the way it should be. You should enjoy, the game for the game. You lose the joy of the game when you put your attachment somewhere. And so obviously there's many more examples and things, but those are a couple of the things he talks about. He gives you exercises to go back and see what domestications you had as you were younger and what attachments you have and where they really come from. After reading this book, you will see the world with new eyes. You will see your life with new eyes. Now, this is a kind of more of an esoteric, spiritual enlightenment kind of a book. It is still God-centered, meaning God, the love, the universal love. It's not necessarily Jesus centered. It doesn't say anything about Jesus at all. So it's not anti-Christian at all, if that's, something you're worried about. And it's not, woo-woo or witchy or any kind of thing like that. It's just a book based on a Toltec tradition, which are, I guess, that are ancestors of this family. And it's just great for anybody looking for that enlightenment, that's just looking for a more kind of a spiritual understanding of things, of the world. And, although it has those spiritual aspects, it also has the concrete thought of, realizing what happened to you or what somebody said to you has, followed you along and created or made you make decisions throughout your life that maybe weren't the best for you. I hope you enjoyed this. I really love all 4 of these books. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you back for more videos.